Welcome back with me, Melissa Ong. In recent weeks, two significant elections in the Asia-Pacific region have drawn global attention. Singapore's People's Action Party has secured a historic 14 consecutive win, ushering in a new era under Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, while Australia's Anthony Albanese has been re-elected, signalling continuity and stability down under. Now, joining me from the federal capital is Peter NICOLL. His work in Malaysia is mostly about regional crises and risk management. Pete, thanks for doing this. Both outcomes, though rooted in vastly different political systems, carry implications not just domestically but for the broader region, including here in Malaysia. Now, as the world grapples with economic headwinds and shifting geopolitical alignments, the choices made by the voters in these two nations offer insights into the state of public trust, leadership and regional cooperation. Now let's begin with Singapore. The People's Action Party has secured its 14th consecutive win last Saturday, giving Prime Minister Lawrence Wong a strong mandate. Now, what does this result suggest about voter confidence in the PAP's new leadership and also Singapore's direction amid a global economic uncertainty? Pete.
Good afternoon, Melissa. Having governed for 65 years, I mean, the People's Action Party, PAP, rules Singapore basically as a de facto one-party state. And as you said, continually possessing more than the two-thirds parliamentary supermajority. And again, this time they managed to maintain a majority of more than two-thirds by winning about 87 out of the 97 parliament seats. A huge boost for Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, who only took power about a year ago. And the PAP's popular vote actually rose to 65.6%, up from a near record low of about 61% in 2020. So the first thing that we noticed is that the opposition's failure to make further inroads after 2020 was a bit of a surprise. But the PAP continues obviously to be seen as a beacon of stability and prosperity. But tight government control and the rising cost of living in one of the world's most expensive cities has also led to some growing unhappiness, especially amongst younger voters. However, voters opted for stability amid concerns over global volatility due to the sweeping US tariffs and US foreign policy. PM Wong's more approachable leadership in engaging the younger voters and also efforts to renew PAP by bringing in about a third of new faces also helped to swing votes. The PAP's decisive win came down to Singapore backing a known quantity at a time of uncertainty. It's a flight to safety, not wanting to change a new party amidst the greatest global tensions in decades, Melissa.
Now, over in Australia, Pete, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has also won a second term, with voters opting for stability, just like Singapore, over change. Now, what does this outcome reveal about Australian electorate's mindset, and what shifts might we expect in Australia's domestic or foreign policy?
Well, for 100 years, Australians have always re-elected first-term prime ministers, but a month ago, it looked like Albanese could lose this one, but he did manage to turn it around. His campaign was solid, but the game changer was Donald Trump, with Albanese convincing people he was a safer pair of hands in an uncertain world. The loser, opposition leader Dutton, Trump played a massive part in his loss. Dutton's attempts to borrow from the Trump playbook really didn't play well with Australian voters. But like Singapore and other places, the new government in Australia has its work cut out. It's got to deal with domestic issues like the cost of living crisis and housing, and also has to tackle the global issues such as Trump and China and tariffs and the global trade war that's going on. The Trump effect really thwarted Dutton's Liberal National Coalition, and it left the door wide open for Albanese and his centre-left Labour Party, who the people showed their trust in again. So very similar circumstances to the Singaporean electorate, Melissa.
Now, Pete, help us understand how do the election outcomes in these two very different political systems, Singapore's dominant party model and Australia's competitive multi-party democracy, now reflect broader trends in governance and public trust across the region?
The Trump effect is certainly playing a major role in how voters are addressing the issue of governmental elections as nations seemingly decide now to stay with steady, trusted political parties rather than upsetting the status quo, particularly in countries where governments have been in power for some time. So whilst nations continue to reel from the cost of living crisis and the tariff and instability brought on by the current US government, it appears that they feel the need to stabilize and trust what they know rather than taking chances on any new political governance, Melissa.
Walk us through what impact might the results in Singapore and Australia have on Malaysia specifically, now bringing everything closer to home, in terms of bilateral ties, trade and regional collaboration, Pete?
We think that the re-election of current governments in Australia and Singapore by increased majority margins, it will be very much the status quo going forward, as Malaysia itself will know how these governments operate, how they negotiate, and what their foreign strategies are. So we would think that this will be welcomed here in Malaysia and also around the region. The show of stability is also something that will appeal to the region in this time of global crisis. And it will allow existing bilateral arrangements to continue and potentially strengthen, Melissa.
Now, Pete, looking at ASEAN as a whole, how could the political direction of Singapore and Australia, two influential partners, perhaps shape the region's strategic landscape in the next 3 to 5 years ahead?
We think this is a very good indication locally and within the region, but also confirms a global direction, as we also saw Canada re-elect a government who seemed to be on the brink of collapse, and the Canadians went for stability there as well. And all this is due again to what we're calling the Trump effect, where nations are reacting to the threat and instability currently within the global marketplace by going with a stable, known government. And this stability domestically will have a huge impact, have a huge positive impact on creating stability for politics, growth, defense, etc., within the region, within Malaysia, and going forward, Melissa.
Thank you, Pete, for sharing your insights, and we hope that definitely Singapore and Australia will impact this part of the region with more stability in this part of the Southeast Asia. Peter NICOLL, Managing Direct Partner, Counter Risk Consultancy Malaysia, Sundram Berhad.
Thank you.
I'm off to another quick break. We'll be back with more updates. This is The World on Bernama TV.